Uprooted Theatrical Studios presents.
It's 10 Tips Tuesday.
Hi there, my name is McKenzie Wilkes. I am an actor and writer and podcaster here in Chicago, Illinois, and I'm also an alumni of Belmont University, class of 2017. And here I am. My brain completely just stopped working. Here I am to give you 10 tips about working and acting and living in Chicago, Illinois. Most of these tips are about acting and theater and film work, but if you ever need any tips about what neighborhoods to hang out in, or what kind of pizza to get, or just how to dress for the weather, anything like that, I'm also around. So feel free to reach out with anything you might ever need. I do want to thank Madison and the Uprooted crew for asking me to come here and hang out and give you some tips. And let's just dive in. My first tip that everyone that I've ever interacted with in theater in Chicago ever has told me, including queen of my life, Jackie Dredding: see shows, and then see some more shows. It's so important to see shows, not only to see the type of work that's being done in terms of the caliber and also just the subject matter, but also it's so good to be able to see theater that's happening at the stages you want to be acting on, as well as building relationships. Relationships are very, very important in truly any city, and Chicago is no different because the community is a lot smaller than you think it is. And people like casting people they know, people like casting their friends, and people like casting people who show up to shows. People want to work with you if you're coming to their plays, you're showing you support, you're showing you want to be a part of the theater community. It's really one of the best things you can do for your career is seeing as many shows as you possibly can. And also there's a lot of really freaking cool art being made. So go see it just because it's cool. I don't know. Yes, that's the end of my sentence. And I'm not saying anything more until I go to tip 2, which is something that I've found to be very helpful personally in my career, working with theaters. It is sort of the next step, I think, in terms of building relationships, whether that be with internships, part-time jobs, or full-time jobs. I think that working with theaters is an incredible thing. I've worked with multiple theaters as an intern, and they were some of the most incredible and fulfilling experiences I've had in the city, and they have made lasting relationships with theater companies that I work with still and that I love. And it's also led to me now working full-time in theater. I am a marketing assistant at a theater called Writers Theater up in a suburb called Glencoe, and it is really a dream of mine that I can spend my day job working in a theater company and then act and perform at night. That was always sort of a goal of mine, and I think I would not have been able to get there had I not worked with theaters as an intern and as part-time employees. I just think that working behind the scenes is not only gives you such a good perspective of how the art in Chicago is made, it gives you invaluable experience with theater companies, especially if you want to start your own, as well as it builds relationships. It gets you in the door and you start to know people, and eventually they want to work with you in different capacities, including acting. So working with theaters is a must, in my opinion. And what's my third tip? I don't know. Let me look at my phone. Little alien. Oh yeah, lean into your uniqueness in this city. Chicago is weird, dude. Some of the stuff that they do in this city is bonkers. The art, it's unlike any other city, I think. I think that Chicago is known for fringe, right? That weird fringy storefront, we have no money, but we're just gonna yell in a black box theater kind of art, which is fun, I think. And I think that this city is a city that people love unique individuals. I think that maybe in some of the bigger cities, and this is just the impression I get, so it may be completely incorrect, but the impression I get is that other larger cities maybe want cookie cutter actors. They want actors that they can fit into multiple roles, that they can just say, oh, this person's leaving, let me slide this person in. They want a cookie cutter. They want the same thing, which is not a bad thing. Some people can do that and I truly can't, and I think that is an incredible and valuable skill and a completely valid career choice to make. But I chose Chicago because I thought of myself to be a more unique performer, and I think that they like unique performers here. I have a friend who is non-binary, and their headshot is wild and makeup and extravagant and crazy cool, and they work constantly because people love that they are just authentically themselves. So lean into your uniqueness and your authenticity, because a lot of times theater companies in Chicago want to put bodies and faces and people on stage that look like nobody else, because you are so special. Who you are, they want to let that shine. So let that shine in yourself in every aspect, whether that be your headshot or your resume. I think that's a pretty invaluable thing to do. And kind of going off of that, you'll want to diversify and really highly prepare your portfolio. So if you went to Belmont, probably you're leaving with like a bunch of dramatic and comedic and Shakespeare, and you'll need those, trust me. Especially Shakespeare. There's so much Shakespeare happening in this city for some reason. Who knows? Probably because it's free, but lots of Shakespeare happening in Chicago. But you're also going to be auditioning for some wild devised pieces, some like adaptation of a horror dystopia fairy tale novella, and they're going to want you to prepare a whole movement piece. And there's just some of the auditions here are absolutely wild. So you're going to need to have a bunch of different things kind of prepared, especially if you play an instrument. Boy, howdy. If you play an instrument, have something prepared. Have a song on each instrument you play, because people will ask for it, especially instruments. I play bass guitar. I also play basic guitar, and a little bit of ukulele. I mostly play bass, so I have something prepared for that. I have multiple pieces prepared for that, because that's another trend I'm seeing in Chicago is people are obsessed with doing plays with music. Not musicals, but plays with music. So if you play an instrument, you can get work. Oh boy, can you get work. But make sure you have it prepared, because you want to be able to pull that right out at the drop of a hat, because they will ask you. I've also been in like every audition I've ever been in, truly, they'll just ask you for a piece. They're like, what do you have? Just show us right now with no preparation. So that is my tip to you, is if you have some cool pieces that maybe aren't monologues and are music, movement, just spoken word, like have those things in your back pocket, because you absolutely will use them. And truly in college, I thought I would never use stuff like that, and I was wrong. So in Chicago, make sure your portfolio is diverse and prepared, because you don't want to look bad. That was a weird way to end that. Who knows? I'm going to go into tip 5, baby. And tip 5 is basically the websites that you're going to need to work in this city. They're like the basic. You will use these daily. There are 3 websites to go to: League of Chicago Theaters, Theater in Chicago, and the Chicago Artist Resource. Now you can Google any of those and find them pretty easily, and you'll want to bookmark them, because you will be using them constantly. Because of the current world crises that we are in, things are obviously a little slow, but those websites are the most invaluable resource for working in the city. There you will find basically every job posting. You can even kind of do click downs and do like part-time, full-time, intern. Like you can find the kind of work you want to find. Every job in the city that's in a theater, you will find there. Every audition that is posted, you will find on those websites. Literally any work to be had as an artist in this city, you will find it on those websites. So bookmark them, check them daily, and submit for auditions. Just it's truly, like every other city, a constant line of just submitting for everything you see, and that is where you will find all of them. There's other smaller websites, but if you want the catch-all, those 3: Theater in Chicago, League of Chicago Theaters, and Chicago Artist Resource. Another thing is they also have resources for artists, as their names would suggest, to just help you get acclimated to living in the city and making connections. So there's a lot of great stuff on those websites. You have to check them out if you want to work here. And number 6, don't limit yourself to just the city. So the Chicagoland area, I'm voguing now, sort of encompasses the city of Chicago as well as all of its outer suburbs. There are so many suburbs that are just surrounding the edge of Chicago. I live in the city still, in Rogers Park, a really great neighborhood on the north side. And truly a 5-minute drive north is a suburb. They are literally right there. So even if you don't have a car, you can still get to these suburbs. Cars make things easier, but a lot of suburbs are also easily accessible by the Metro train or the CTA trains. So they're just everywhere. So don't limit yourself to just the city, especially if you want to do musical theater. There's a lot more musicals happening out in the suburbs. The suburbs jobs pay pretty well, if I'm being honest. There's a lot of work to be had there, and if you're limiting yourself to just the city, you're going to be losing out on a lot of paying gigs. So just don't limit yourself, but also be aware if you get a job out there, you will be commuting to the suburbs quite often. So make sure that it is a commitment that you want to make, because it can be quite a commitment, especially if you're going to one of the further away suburbs. But suburbs like Evanston that are really close to the main city are easy enough to get to, and there's plenty of work to be had in them. So branch out. That is tip number 6. And tip number 7 is a very important one, in my opinion. If you are unsure about a theater or a director or an artist, ask around. Ask a friend. Because if they haven't worked with any of those people, the theater company, the director, etc., they will know someone who knows someone who knows someone who has an experience with them, who knew somebody else who had an experience with them. The community is very, very small. And if you want to reach out to me, I have my own opinions about certain places in the city, and everybody you meet that is an actor will also have opinions about the theater companies and directors in the city. And honestly, I have found that I have dodged some pretty bad situations by just asking friends what their experiences were like working with certain theater companies. I think that it is worth it to take care of yourself and value the work you're putting in. And I think that a great first step to that is asking, like, hey, have you worked here? What was it like? And letting someone give you their honest opinion. People want to be honest because people want to protect each other in this city. It's a tight-knit community. So just ask around. If it's something that you're on the fence about, it might be able to teeter you one side or the other. So if you're unsure about a theater, a director, an artist, ask your friends. They will have something to say, and they will have your back with things. I think that it is absolutely, I've said this multiple times, an invaluable resource is the other artists in this city. So just ask around. I've found that is the best advice. I have figured out my own way, the hard way. So take that advice. And my next tip is something I don't have as much experience in, but I do have this to give to you. There is film work in this city, a lot of it. There's a lot of like Chicago procedural shows, sort of like Chicago Med, Chicago PD, Chicago whatever, insert thing here, that is always looking for extra work. There's plenty of websites that you can go submit extra work for and get pulled in for daily rates and get like a couple $100 to go be a extra on a TV show. So you can make a lot of extra money by just being an extra if you have days cleared, and it's a way to get a little bit more experience working on film sets. But the real tip is if you want anything substantial, like if you're wanting to go for more day player stuff, because there's not only those procedural shows, but really cool Showtime and HBO shows like The Chi and Shameless that all film in the city. If you want more substantial work, then you're going to need to get an agent. There's a lot of really cool agencies in the city. The two biggest ones I can think of are Big Nose Talent and Gray Talent Agency. You're going to want to get a really impressive reel put together if you've gotten some film work maybe in the cities that you're living in now. Put a nice reel together, start submitting, and you might get no first time around. But if you keep working, keep building your reel, keep submitting, you'll eventually get an agent, and an agent is an absolute must if you want to do any substantial film work in the city. So that's my tip. If you want film work, you've got to get an agent. And that's it. I don't know why I keep starting new sentences when I truly have nothing else to say. My little brain just fizzles out. And we're going to go into 2 tips I think are the most important for me. Now, this one might be a little bit more polarizing, might not be everyone's opinion, but it is definitely my opinion. And my 9th tip is don't work for free. I think that as artists, we are constantly undervaluing ourselves, and we let others undervalue our work as well. And I think that always being paid for the art you're doing is a must, especially in the city, because you're in the real world. You're probably working 1 or 2 jobs to be able to afford rent. You are upkeeping personal relationships. You are calling your parents. You're also trying to do a bunch of other types of art. You're busy. And yes, you love acting, but doing it for free, in my opinion, is a really hard thing to do when you have so much more life going on. And I also think that a theater company that is willing to pay its artists, even if it's just like a $100 stipend, it's small, definitely not where your art is worth, but just even making the budget to pay artists what they can shows me that a theater company really wants to invest in the artists that it hires. And it shows to me that that theater company has integrity and value in the people that it employs. And I think that those are the types of companies worth working for. And I think that the ones that won't pay you, I don't think they're worth working for. I think you should value yourself and value your art, because what you put in the world is special and wonderful, and you should be paid for it because this is what you want to do for a living. And if you're worried about not working, the work is out there. The work is ready for the taking. The paid work is there. You are not going to miss out on anything by excluding free work. I promise you that. So that is my 9th tip. Don't work for free. And my final tip is find other creative outlets. There are a lot of creative communities here in the city, and you will never be working as much as you were in college. When I was in college from my junior year to my senior year, I was never not in a show. For 2 years straight, I was working constantly, and it has not been that way in the real world. And so you just really need to find other creative outlets for yourself. I have found music to be a really great outlet. I love playing bass guitar. It's been a huge passion and love of mine, and there's a really cool Chicago music punk scene that I found. Like, there's so many creative communities and all the little pockets of Chicago that are just there to be joined. And I've also become what I consider like successful in my own right podcaster. Upon moving to the city, I was involved in multiple Dungeons and Dragons podcasts, have been on a bunch of streams. I'm now making money off of podcasting by producing, editing, and starring in multiple podcasts. And it has been an incredible creative outlet for me, especially in quarantine, but just in my life in general, just being able to podcast and have a new way to be an artist, even when I'm not acting. And it's just been wonderful. So I really highly recommend finding your other creative outlets and seeing where they can get you in this city, because not only will it grow your skills, but it'll grow your community, and it's just more ways to create some art. So those are my 10 tips for living in Chicago. I'm sure there are so many more to be had, and obviously there's all the little things. I am always around if you have any more questions. Feel free to reach out, and thanks for listening.